Welcome back. I hope all is well. I'm glad you're here. Actually, hold on just 1 second. Okay, that's a little bit better. Today, this is more like a raw talk. There's going to be no fancy footage or video. It's just going to be me talking with you. This is almost like a conversation I would have with my colleagues in the office. And today, I just wanted to share with you a few thoughts about why it might be helpful to wait before going into private practice. Now, I know when I first graduated from graduate school, all I could think about was going into private practice. It was my goal and my vision for my career. However, I did not jump straight in. I worked for quite some time for hospitals and different agencies before actually going into private practice. Now, I want to share with you a little bit about why that was helpful. Now that I can take a look back and see things in retrospect, there were some really good benefits to waiting. So I'm going to share that with you today. But before we start, I just wanted to share also that there are people I know who have gone into private practice straight from school. And this is not a video to say why that's a bad idea. In fact, I think everyone's career path is a bit different. So for people that do go straight into private practice, that's a totally different path that I don't really know much about. So today I'm going to share with you my views on why it might be helpful to wait before going into private practice. So one reason why it might be helpful to wait before going into private practice is to gain more experience. In the helping profession as a therapist, experience is really helpful. Now, I know the entry-level jobs available for people in the helping profession, social workers, counselors, it might not be your dream job, but these experiences are really important and really formative. And I'm sharing this with you. I'm someone who's worked a bunch of different jobs in the helping profession, and only in hindsight can I truly understand the value that these jobs provided me. Not only was I able to gain really helpful clinical experience, but I also learned other things as well. I learned how insurance works. I learned how businesses operate and corporations work. Not like the business aspect of things, but I learned how to function within an established entity, right? So at a hospital or an agency. And these are really, really helpful experiences to have. Not to mention, when you go into private practice, people always ask, what is your past experience, or what have you done? And you really do want to have something to say. You can say, well, I've worked at this hospital, or I've worked at this institution, and I've done this. And now I know that when we think about like in the heat of the moment, when you're actually living out the experiences, especially those beginning ones, your first job, your first two jobs, it's really hard to kind of think that way on a day-to-day basis. But just know that these experiences, even the hardest experiences, are going to be some of your most formative. I know that when I would speak to colleagues as well, we would talk about, our first jobs or our first internship experiences, whatever it may be. And although they may have been difficult for a variety of reasons, everyone that I've talked to look back and they can say, well, there was some value there, and it's really helped develop me into the clinician I am today. So that is one reason why it's really helpful to wait before going into private practice. It's just to gain that real world experience in the helping profession. And related to experience is also the support and learning you can do from colleagues and peers that you work with. So when you work at a hospital or an agency, usually your first couple of jobs, you're going to be working within a team. Mostly in the helping profession, when you're not in private practice, you're usually part of some sort of interdisciplinary team. Now, aside from the clinical experiences you get, working with other people, whether it be people who are, more advanced in the same career that you're in, or even working with others like, for example, I worked with doctors, I worked with business people, I worked with HR people in my different roles, and to learn from them and to have support from them was really, really great. It was really formative. And again, a lot of that learning is invaluable. And, I learned a lot from my doctor colleagues. I learned a lot from my HR colleagues, so much so that they kind of helped me understand different things. When I worked with people in HR, I began to really understand benefits and insurance. When I worked with doctors, I started to learn about medication and different things like that. So those experiences and having those colleagues as support has been really helpful. Not to mention, when you go into private practice, you're going to want colleagues and peers who you can look to for support and for help and for learning and things like that. You just want to have a good professional network. And I'll say that the people I met at my first couple of jobs and that I've met along my working career, have been awesome. And to have that network now in private practice is really great. But I'd only have that network of colleagues if I had, worked ahead of time. If I went straight into private practice, I think it would have been much more difficult to develop a professional network. So yeah, having a professional network is another benefit to waiting for private practice. So another reason why it might be helpful to wait before going into private practice is for licensing reasons. Therapists have a whole bunch of different backgrounds, or potentially could have different backgrounds. So if you went to school for counseling, or if you went to school for psychology or social work, you can become a therapist. Now, despite the degree or the kind of background that you have, you do need to be licensed to be a therapist. And for me, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And in that role, there's 2 licenses that you can get. The first one is what we can call it an entry-level license. It's not actually called that. It's called the LMSW. But essentially, this is a license you get right out of school, and it allows you to do, therapy and run groups and everything that you see a social worker doing. But you're not allowed to practice without supervision from someone who has an LCSW. We'll call the LCSW the advanced license. Again, not called that, but this is the license you get after going through your required supervision and training, all that kind of stuff. So it takes time to get that. It takes several years. It takes a lot of hours of supervision and training. And again, this kind of goes along with experience, but having that LCSW is really important for private practice. One, there is insurance reimbursement issues that come with not having that license. So I do think, don't quote me on this, but if you don't have your LCSW or the advanced license, I don't think insurance companies are going to reimburse for your services. Also, when you're getting the LCSW or you're working towards it, you have to get supervision, you need experience, and you need someone to help you. And in private practice, you're gonna have to do all that on your own. Find a supervisor, find the experience. It's gonna be a lot more challenging, whereas a lot of the jobs that you get right out of school, right out of grad school, are gonna provide you with that supervision that you need. So that's another reason why it might be helpful to wait, is so that you can be fully licensed and ready to go right when you start your private practice. Another reason why it might be helpful to wait is to discover what your specialty is, or at least what you want it to be. Now, when you first start working as a therapist or in the helping profession with the goal of being a therapist, you might have a general sense of what you want to do or what you think you want to specialize in. However, I've noticed with myself and with others that as you have your first couple of jobs, as you gain your first experiences, that could really change. And actually, you don't get the full picture while in school, right? You get like a little snippet at an internship or in class. But once you start working in the real world, you actually get a real flavor for what it's like to work with a particular population or a particular issue. And over time, you're really going to develop, oh, you know what? I really like this particular population. Oh, I like working with this issue, or whatever it may be, macro or micro level, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is that over time, I really do think that it takes time to really begin to develop a sense of what you want your specialty to be. Now, hey, maybe you have an intuition about what you want your specialty to be, and then over time you actually confirm and solidify that. That's great. Other times people come out of school and they don't really know what they want their specialty to be, or even if they need a specialty. But again, over time, you'll get more clarity about this. And one thing I've noticed about being in private practice is that having a specialty is really helpful. People are looking for usually specialized treatment for something, right? They want someone who is, quote unquote, an expert in a particular area. And this is helpful, right? People have different issues, different niche issues. And so to develop a specialty as a therapist is going to be really helpful for private practice. And then the last reason I wanted to mention is kind of a combination of all these things. But as you kind of gain experience, as you work with colleagues, as you get licensed, and as you start to develop a sense of your specialty, you begin to develop an understanding of your identity as a helping professional, right? And so this involves finding out your strengths and weaknesses, what your interests are. There's a whole bunch of things that go into kind of determining what is your identity as a practitioner. But over time, this becomes clear, it becomes refined, it changes, it shifts. But again, only with experience and time do we begin to develop a stronger sense of who you are as a practitioner or as a clinician. And so I do think that it's helpful to have, a strong sense of what your identity is as a practitioner before going into private practice. And again, this is like a vague term, but I'm talking, like knowing your strengths and weaknesses, having a sense of your specialty, knowing how you work with other people, that kind of thing. Also knowing and being confident in the work that you do, right? So over time, you get more confident in how you practice and the approaches you take. Hopefully with training and education, you become a more confident practitioner with that experience and all that kind of stuff. So again, I think waiting to go into private practice, there's not like a perfect time. But I do think there is some time that needs to go by so you can develop, this sense of identity. And again, this is almost like a combination of everything we've been talking about, but I thought it was helpful to mention anyway. And so yeah, I think that's another reason why it could be helpful to wait before going into private practice. So that's it for today's video, just some of my thoughts about private practice. I would love to know what you think about this type of video, more raw, unfiltered, and not too fancy or anything like that. Let me know down below in the comments. Also, this was not an exhaustive list. If you have other reasons why you think it would be helpful to wait before going into private practice, I would love to know down below as well. And also, if you're someone who went straight into private practice, I would love to know about that experience as well. Put a comment down below. But until then, I look forward to seeing you soon.